Okay? Can you hear me? We're going to have a silent disco. Are you ready for a dance? Come, you got to put your headphones on. Can I ask a favor? I'm going to shame everyone that's at the back. You're only allowed to sit in the front 10 rows. So come forward. Come on. Come on. We don't bite. Put your headphones on, please. I feel like a school teacher. Yep. Everyone, no, come forward. I'm going to start shaming. Go on the yellow top and the green. Come on. All right. Okay, I tried. Apparently, I meant to say, if you want to do a hashtag, it's hashtag MF London 25. Okay? I'm Roger Wade. I run a VC fund, BoxFund. No, I'm not a big bad capitalist. We're investing in impact brands, impact consumer brands, brands that we hope are going to make a better world. Come and join us. Put the headphones on. Trust me, it's going to be good. I'm really proud to introduce to the stage 3 people that absolutely inspire me, and you're in for a fantastic session. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Pippa Dunn from Broody. It's like, please give her a round of applause. Okay. Pippa runs, Broody is the incubator of Mother Advertising Agency, and they incubate lots of impact consumer brands, but we're going to let Pippa tell you about that in a minute. Please take a seat, Pippa. Then next to the stage is Guy Hayler. It's like being on a, you know, like, I'm trying to make it like Wembley. Guy Hayler is the founder of Blue Earth Summit. Blue Earth Summit is not just a conference, it's a cultural movement trying to encourage people to think more about sustainability, impact and the environment, and create that better world. Welcome, Guy. You looked a bit crammed there. Let me move this over. Okay. And finally, my old friend, Bob Sheard. I was going to say co-founder of Fresh Britain, but I got corrected. I'm now meant to say best-selling author of How Brands Can Change the World. There you go. Welcome, author. Okay. Please take the stage.
Hey, nice to meet you.
We won't bother the headphones, we'll just chat amongst ourselves. Just before we start, why don't you do your own intro in terms of yourselves and what you do?
Hi, I'm Pippa. I'm a co-founder of Broody. I started off life as a lawyer and then became a theatre producer and then worked for the devil itself, Coca-Cola, as you were just describing, and then moved into telecoms and then worked my way up, ended up working at EE where I was the CMO, and then left when we sold and created a business which helps entrepreneurs make a positive impact in the world and develop new brands that make the world just a little bit better.
And some of those brands are?
Well, one that Roger has invested in case you haven't heard, is Nude. It is a plastic-free chewing gum. For those of you that weren't here at the last session, because Roger loves to plug it, it's a little-known fact that 99% of all chewing gum contains as much single-use plastic as a plastic straw, and yet we allow that to exist in this world when plastic straws have gone. We also have an investment in Smol, which is the leading sort of direct-to-consumer home laundry business. We have Roller, we have Floose, we have 14 different brands, all of which are making a positive impact, hopefully.
Guy, tell us about yourself.
No problem at all. Hello, everyone. I'm Guy. I am one of the founders of Blue Earth. We've got a simple mission that is to try and transform the way the world works. So quite a big one. We're not in any way saying that we can do that on our own, but the way that we do that is by finding funding and supporting the transformational startups that are disrupting their various industries. So within Blue Earth, I run a ventures arm that's very focused on that funding side of things. And then we're very focused on bringing together people and convening people in different event formats to make deals happen that are going to kind of shift the dial. So we're probably most famous for our summit. We run it in every October. This year I have about 7,000 people. It's a combination of big corporates that are transitioning, meeting startups, and kind of trying to inspire and be a bit of a catalyst in that innovation and founder space.
You're usually behind the stage, not on the stage, organising it.
Oh,
so
no, he
welcome.
loves a bit of the stage.
I'm always on the stage, but I'm usually the MC. I'm not usually a panelist, but it's good to be here.
Bob?
Hi, I'm Bob Sheard. Thank you for having me. I started life buying and selling vintage denim at a stall on Camden Market. Used to sell the vintage stuff back to Levi's. They liked the cut of my jib. They paid for my education. I became the creative director of Converse. And then from there went on to co-found Fresh Britain. Designed over 250 brands from Levi's to LVMH, Nike to New Balance. And along the way, had a bit of a Damascene conversion, realized I was making lots of cool stuff. It was ending up in landfill. So, as Roger said, recently wrote a book about how brands can save the world by changing the way we consume, the way we produce, and the way we create demand.
Thank you. We're not going to dip our toe in the water. We're going to jump right in. Is capitalism broken? And are we seeing the end of just pure consumerism for consumerism's sake? Pippa.
Thank you, Roger, for that easy opener question.
You are a lawyer.
Are we seeing the end of capitalism or consumerism?
A bit on both.
So I think probably no to both. I think there are fundamental shifts that are occurring. I think the younger generation are certainly way more aware than we are. I think we're moving away from the era of just pure consumption and buying endless shit into a world where experiences are much more important. And those experiences are everything from, how you live your life. For example, wellness holidays and experience holidays are the fastest growing trend in the travel industry. And that's no surprise, because people want to experience things and have a positive experience rather than just buying endless rubbish. But I do think, unfortunately, when you look at, even in where I work, if you see the amount of Amazon boxes that come in through the door on a daily basis, we are not at the end of consumerism by any stretch of the imagination.
Big bad Amazon. Guy?
Yeah, I don't think a huge amount is going to change in that sense. So I think that there is a lot of broken systems out there, but humans aren't necessarily going to change how they think so much as we might want when we're talking about this topic. The reality is that we're going to always want progress, so we're going to want things better, faster, cheaper. That's not going to change. What is changing is the mindset and the wave of businesses that are coming through now that have seen an opportunity to fix system problems, and there's plenty of problems. I read about problems, and because I've come from an entrepreneurial background, all I think of is opportunity. If you can create these epic businesses that can solve problems and drive the system change. So I think that's the reality of how it is going to change, is that we need businesses to come forward with new business models that are disruptive, that are going to kind of knock the broken systems out the way. So I don't know, the one that always is just a simple example is if you look at the airline industry. Like, the number of people taking flights is only going in one direction. The demand is getting bigger and bigger. The solution isn't to say, well, let's all stop flying, because in my view, which is controversial given that I run an event that's all about kind of being sustainable and protecting the planet, I actually think people need to get out into the world and see it more. Get around the world, and then you take your inspiration, you come back and you use your business as a force for good. If we're all sitting there going, well, actually, no, we should stop flying, there's such a minority that are doing that. The reality is we need to put the pressure on the industry to find the innovation, to find more sustainable fuels and more sustainable technology to deliver the same outcome. So then, if coming back to your question, is it changing, or yes or no to capitalism and consumerism? I don't think that's going to change. We just need more of a push from the ground up.
Can we afford not to change? I mean, I think there's something like 18 of the world's hottest years have been recorded in the last 20 years or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is, can we afford not to change? No, we've got to change. How we change is really the question, and I think it is led by business and supported by consumers.
Come on, Bob.
Is capitalism broken? It's been around for 350 years since the dawn of mercantilism. It's definitely not broken. It's one of the most powerful organizing forces behind human behavior that shaped a lot of progress over the last 350 years. The decision is, how do we align capitalism around the progress that we want to see achieved? One of the most amazing things about profit and capitalism is it transcends national borders where governments can't. So if you look at COVID, climate, conflict, three things that have really molested our quality of life in the last 10 years, those have been tried to be managed on a global stage by 195 different governments with their own administrations, authorities from within national boundaries. So they're trying to manage something that has the dynamics beyond national boundaries within national boundaries. One of the things that does transcend national boundaries in a really dynamic way is capitalism. The way we spend our money is our only democratic expression globally. As I sit as a British citizen, I've got no democratic lever to pull to see who manages COVID, climate and conflict on a global basis. I've just got to rely on institutions last designed in 1948, the UN, the WTO, that aren't really fit for purpose. So the only democratic mandate I've got is how I spend my money, and I want to spend my money on products that represent the future I want to see, on brands that represent the world I want to live in. And so if we can align capitalism around that motive, then we can truly change the world we live in, and we can see how important brands become in how we can change the world.
So you've literally just written a book, how brands are going to change the world. So come on, let's put you on the spot. How are brands going to change the world? I know we've had conversations before about whether Keynesian economics is dead and whether we're going to replace it with a sort of donut economics as purported by Kate Raworth, and putting the environment at the heart and center of all our decisions. How are brands going to change the world? Is it literally just what you're saying, that the consumers change and the consumer demand is going to drive change? What is it that's going to change the world?
There's a massive opportunity. So you talked about Generation Z and their changing meaning systems. They are, by 2040, going to be the biggest economic group on Earth. Already 1 in 10 people on Earth are Indian and under 20. Generation Z are going to be the first generation that starts to be more defined by what they know and more defined by what they do and less defined by what they own. So it's less about buying things and more about doing things and accumulating knowledge. When you look at that from a brand perspective and an economic perspective, it means that we've got to find a way of living sustainably on Earth. By the end of this century, there'll be 12 billion of us on the planet. We've got to live above the threshold for purposeful economic life. You still want to send your kids to private school, you still want to go on nice holidays, so you've got to live above the profit market sustainably, but it's got to be below the ecological threshold for unsustainable life. So it means brands have got to find pathways to growth that go beyond the making of things and the provision of experiences, knowledge and intelligence. So there are ways of doing it, and there are brands that are out there doing it, finding pathways to profit that feed our knowledge, that feed our experiences. I was looking for historical precedents for this, like how has that happened in the past, and I found it in Beyonce. So my mate used to run Columbia.
You didn't look that far then, in the past.
No, my mate used to run Columbia Music in New York 20 years ago. His economic model was make CDs, call Beyonce, write an album, call the manager of Destiny's Child, promote the album so I can sell more things, CDs. Then Napstar came out and started streaming. His things disappeared. iTunes scaled it. More of his things disappeared. So his economic model had to pivot from the making of things into the selling of experiences. Back to the tour manager, let's do tours. So the economic model of music now is the brand meaning system is the band, but what they're selling is the experience and the memory, not the things. So when we can transform brands today to sell less things, more experiences, more knowledge, more intelligence, then we can start to change the economic model in favor of Generation Z, who are going to be more defined by what they own and less by what they do.
And I know that we've spoken before about somebody that's, has inspired us, Yvon Chouinard, the CEO of Patagonia, and one of the things that he's encouraged us to do is consume less but buy better. So, you know, literally he's got a lifetime guarantee now on his jackets, and they're incredibly profitable, Patagonia, but they're showing a new way of doing business. Let's actually consume less but make better products. And this is not new. I think in the 1930s, when you used to buy a coat, I think the average cost of a coat was a month's salary, and you used to repair it. You used to put it on your bed. You know, is that the way forward?
Patagonia's been, you know, in recent history, been very profitable. For the first 30 years of its life, it was always on the verge of oblivion, always on the verge of bankruptcy. The thing that turned Patagonia around was the microfleece. You know, the micro down. That's what transformed their profitability. It wasn't an actual environmental profit motive. So we can't lose sight of the fact that actually the selling of products transformed their bottom line. However, having got there, Earth is now their only shareholder, and they've developed their own trust, etc. One of the key things that he did very well that other brands need to do is wean us off the new and help us start to accept patina. It should be cool to turn up in ripped jeans and you not think I'm skint. You should think these are all right. So it's starting to wean us off the new, wean us onto patina, wean us onto the imperfect, and we'll start to see new ways of designing and new ways of producing.
Guy, Pippa?
Yeah, I was going to just add to that. It's kind of that there is a point you have to be realistic. They're just saying buy less and buy better. Just comes back to that sort of point that I make. Humans aren't going to change as much as we might want. They're always going to want the next thing, the glitzy, shiny thing. But if we can move wherever we can move from that linear system into a circular system, that's a more realistic shift, because then people are still, you know, people still get their hit from buying something new.
So are you just saying that is effectively inform the consumer better, rely on the consumer, or do you think we need to go a stage further and actually have some sort of government intervention and encourage people to recycle product or make better product? I mean, we can't have a situation that we've got fast fashion that literally you wear it once and you can throw it away.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that the reality is we've got to make it easy for the consumer. And I think there's already new business models that are coming together. That's, I don't know, use fast fashion as an example. There's a very cool brand called Batch London. They've flipped the whole way that you buy a suit, rather than going in and buying a suit off the shelf. And that, I think there's sort of, I don't know what the stats are, but about 40% of what they would make in a traditional suit brand, it would go to landfill because it hasn't sold and the sizes are awkward. They're doing it where it's made to order, which the consumer then has to wait. But then where they've actually had success as a business is actually not leading with their sustainability credentials. They're just saying it's a better price.
Again, learning from the past, my parents called that the tailor that you went to. Pippa?
No, I was just going to say, my grandmother was born in 1899 on a farm in Scotland, and her two mantras in life were buy once, buy well, and mend and make good. And I think if we go back to some of those principles that existed in their generation, we'd be doing really well. And the second thing I was going to say, which is aligned to what you were talking about, which is consumers are going to buy stuff, right? We're not going to stop that. There is dopamine associated with purchasing, which it's unrealistic to think that that's just going to disappear. So what we as marketers and consumer and creators of brands and business need to do is to make the sustainable option the easy option to choose. So, you know, probably everyone here knows about System 1 thinking, but I think part of the issue is that often we're putting compromises in the way of consumers when they come to buy something, whether it's price or quality or a perception of that. And if you can make the sustainable option the no-brainer option by creating enough brand desire so that people actually really, really want it, then I think we're on the right path to being able to crack some of this.
And Pippa, you know, you're running the incubator for Mother. Mother's one of the largest agencies and successful agencies in the UK. Why are you backing specifically impact consumer brands? What's driven you personally to set up Broody?
A number of things. I think I've always been interested in innovation, and and the sort of juxtaposition between creativity and commercial, and using that experience that I've had in conjunction with, the brilliant minds at Mother, to make a positive impact and to put decent things into the world, feels like a really worthwhile way of spending the last third of, well, probably not even the last third, the last bit of my career. And setting that up as a system which can be passed down through generations really, really sort of inspires me.
But we both know that the currency of change, unfortunately, is money. And, we've both invested in a business, and we're not just doing it to make just a better world. We just fundamentally believe that it's going to be a profitable business. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you can't do businesses that don't make any money because you go bust. So it needs to be, purposeful and profitable. We both want the government to ban plastic gum because it should be banned. But in the interim,
4 billion pieces chewed every day.
Yeah, in the interim.
Teaspoon going into your brain, causing dementia. Quick plug.
Okay, it's not just an advert for nude, by the way. We need people to be going out and making that positive choice and buying it.
And we're making headways with that in terms of the government. But Guy, you're going one stage further, because you're actually leading a movement, a movement of marketeers, a movement of investors that are investing in impact brands. Is that movement growing? Tell us about that movement.
Yeah, definitely. I think the word movement is always hard to describe. I think everyone can look at it in a different way. We're trying to build this movement of people and businesses that want to transform the way the world works and have the kind of the power to do that. It certainly started out as a singular event as Blue Earth Summit, and as we've grown, it's kind of evolved into this sort of group where we're finding really cool businesses, bringing them into our world. And as we've kind of got bigger and we've got, access to 50,000 people that have been through our events now, and that's global CMOs and CSOs and CEOs leading the charge from some of the biggest brands in the world to the coolest founders and startups that are going to be running the big companies of the future. And we're constantly trying to connect them. So I think we've helped raise something around, I think it's just tipped over 160 million.
Wow.
Into about 60 different companies, but I think we're only just getting going.
And how big is your community? How many people visit the summit?
The summit in October will be about 7,000, but ironically, as that's got bigger, we've kind of pined for smaller events. So last week, as part of London Climate Action Week, we were one of the kind of headline events, but it was a very targeted event. We had 50 businesses in the room raising collectively about 248 million, and then we just brought in 450 odd investors, and the whole idea was just to make sure that we're driving as much investment into those companies as possible.
And moving to you, Bob, if you could see like some major structural change or government change to make people become more environmentally conscious, to think more about what they purchase, what would you like to see?
Frankly, I don't think it's government's job to do that. I think that we've just...
Why not?
Because last year we had half the world's population go into a democratic election, India, America, us, France, etc. Everybody was promised policies, and those policies were funded by what the government's called economic growth. They're addicted to economic growth. They're on a 5-year cycle. They're not going to get there. They can't do it alone because they're structurally disabled to do it. So it falls upon us, people in culture, people in brands, people in art, people who are activists, to create the space for politicians to move into. So if you want real change, you need two things. You need idealists and optimists creating the space in art and culture, and then you need pragmatists and realists to move into that space and affect real change. If you take the civil rights movement in America, you got Bob Dylan singing Blowing in the Wind. That was a white guy singing about black rights. That pissed Sam Cooke off, who was a black guy who wanted to sing about black rights. So he sang, change is going to come. Those two things acted culturally as an accelerator to evangelize the movement, to create the movement. The movement for civil rights moved there. And eventually you got Lyndon Baines Johnson enacting the Voting Act and the Civil Rights Act because the space was created. We can't wait for governments to do it on their own. We have to create the space
very
for
well
them to move towards.
articulated.
But Bob, I would argue that our economies are fundamentally broken, that this reliance and growth is not sustainable. because it's effectively built on Keynesian economics, it's built on debt, and we're now facing massive debt situations that are simply not sustainable. So isn't the fundamental issue this addiction to growth at all costs? I challenge that. I don't think it is about growth at all costs. I think that we fundamentally got to change and start putting our environment at the heart and soul of all of our decisions, as Kate Rayworth would say.
Fundamentally. Sorry, I'm just back from Glastonbury, so my brain's
don't worry.
I fundamentally agree with the need for change. I'm saying don't expect governments to create that change. That's like asking turkeys to vote for Christmas. Then I'm going to change they're addicted to growth, because growth enables them to make promises to you without raising your taxes. They're not going to make the change. It's up to us to create the change. It's up to 8 billion consumers on Earth changing their consumption patterns to create the change. It's up to
or changing their voting patterns.
Possibly, yeah, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I can't do that now. All I can do is try and influence change, influence attitudes, and influence culture. That's my job.
Guy?
I do think, just to add just to keep coming back to the same point, you sort of up to the consumer to make the change. I do think it's got to be business-led. It's got to be led by the business, because consumers need the convenient, easier, cheaper option. The bits that we're always looking at, we review thousands of businesses coming through our various different platforms, is we always look for the holy grail. Is a new business, is it a product or service that is better than what already exists? Is it better for the planet, and is it commercially viable? And they've got to be able to say yes to all three. Usually they can say yes to two, but if we can get more businesses coming through that can say yes to all three, and they are out there, Nude is a classic example, just to jump on the bandwagon, then that makes it a lot easier. So then when someone goes to the petrol station, they won't be around for much longer, but when they do at the moment, and they're faced with a choice of, I could get Wrigley's Extra, which has got a load of plastic in, or I could get Nude, and they're the same cost, or Nude ideally would drop down eventually as you get the economies of scale, and then one's better for the planet and one tastes better. Then it's just the word better has got to come out stronger. You're not making a sustainable choice, you're just making a better choice.
But Guy, the reality is, and let's just take the example of Nude, is we can't produce a plant-based gum that is based on chicle, which is from Mexico, which has got a limited supply, and compete against big bad Mars Wrigley, who are shoving plastic extrusion into their gum, and that's what you chew upon. So if we're leaving it just to the consumer is lazy,
yeah, but then
and he's going to buy the cheapest alternative. Don't you believe fundamentally that we should not be consuming things like plastic gum?
Yeah, I agree with that, but then you're just solving the problem for the middle class. You've got to find a solution that everyone can afford.
It's only £1.50.
Well, I know, but you just got to be realistic. Like a good person that speaks at our event.
How much is your latte today?
Is Richard Walker, who is, he's written a book, The Green Grocer. He runs Iceland Supermarket. He's passionate, extremely passionate about doing the right thing for the environment. But his biggest problem is his customers are on the breadline. He wants to make the best choice ever, but he keeps coming up with these sustainability ideas that they just can't afford. So I do often think that, look around the room here, everyone can afford a slightly more expensive chewing gum. But if we really want to create system change, that being price competitive, but humans are so price sensitive.
Just using that example, do you think it's acceptable that, I'm not harping on about Nude, but just an example to use. Do you think it's acceptable that in the UK we have 4 billion pieces of plastic gum that are just wasting the floor and they never go anywhere, and the government should do nothing about that?
No, I think the government should step in. They should do exactly what they did on...
So not just consumers then?
No, I'm not saying just consumers. I'm saying business. And then I think when business can apply enough pressure, then government can tip it over the edge. Look at that, they managed to get rid of plastic straws, and Nude will be an amazing position when they go, well, actually, this is mental that there's plastic in chewing gum. Let's get rid of that. The pressure then goes on to Wrigley's. You're one step ahead. Life gets a little bit easier.
Well, and let's be clear, you actually gave Nude a stage way before I was there. So,
No, I'm massive. I don't want it to come across like I'm not a fan.
I know.
I really love Nude. I think it's a great business. But I think we've got to constantly come back to that point of not just solving problems for the middle.
Let's go back to Pippa in terms of what structural change would you like to see?
I don't know. I think I agree with you, which is I think there are certain things where government can intervene and change the law or regulate or all the rest of it. But I do believe that you need that space created so that governments can do it. And that if you just, and I certainly don't think, and I think if you get to the point where the consumer choice is really straightforward, and as you say, all you're doing is making a better choice, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you look at certain things, I mean, the dishwasher for me is a really good example, right? So the dishwasher is
Mine's always broken.
better for you and better for the environment. So why would you do the washing up? And so if you can find products or services or whatever else it is that become the no-brainer better option, that's what I think we should all be searching to
Pippa,
find.
how, just expand that. I've just got to ask, how's my dishwasher better for the environment than me doing it myself?
Because it uses less electricity and less water.
The electric dishwasher
The electric dishwasher
is better for the environment
is
than...
better for the environment than you doing the washing up at the sink.
Okay.
So it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer solution that
Okay.
everybody likes.
Let me put another question to you, okay? We're on the verge of a quantum leap in computing power with quantum computing, which is going to bring our knowledge and the speed of computing a millionfold. We're going to know not only, let's just take the example of what we eat, we're going to know from atomic level what it consists of and the effect on our body. Do you imagine in 20 years' time that we will be drinking Coca-Cola, Bob?
Probably, yeah. Just to answer the question about is it business or consumer or politics, it's all of it. It's not a binary thing. It's not a false alternative. We work with a brand called Simond in Chamonix, £100 million ice axe company based on alpinism. We've just folded a $1 billion brand into it that makes everything regeneratively manufactured, source called Fourclads. So we've rebranded Simond, folded Fourclads into it, taking it to 1.1 billion. We're now going to sell it through 2,500 Decathlon stores, taking it to 3.5 billion, meaning it'll be bigger than the North Face and be regenerative. And then growth from there now is entirely based on experience, knowledge, and intelligence.
And are they going to do repair?
Yeah, repairs, renewals, guiding, insurance, nutrition, fitness, everything for alpinism. All the things you can get in Brighton, but you can't get in the Alps. So there's the way of doing it at scale.
And more importantly, is Coca-Cola going to exist in 20 years' time, Bob?
I think there's a space above Coca-Cola. I think there's a space, a luxury space above Coca-Cola that one day will be filled by dandelion and burdock. But
yes or no?
It will be there. I think one of the things that we make mistakes of is we try and make pariahs out of people. Coca-Cola, in its history, when it did Teaching the World to Sing in Perfect Harmony, that was a catalyzer to end the Vietnam War. When it did Mean Black Joe, that ended the riots in Southern America. So there are real things that Coke has done well. I'm not suggesting the selling of brown sugar water is a great thing in aluminium cans. I'm just saying it's not a binary situation where one brand is bad and one brand is good. I hope Coke is around in 20 years' time at scale, because it's provided liquid that people can drink in sub-Saharan Africa that's clean, that's better than the water they can drink. I'm not saying that's all the way, but hang on. I think it should be around in 20 years' time, but it should be around regeneratively. It should be around positively.
The company may be around, but let's agree to disagree that maybe drinking something that strips your stomach of all the healthy biomes is not so good for you. Guy?
Yeah, well,
what's the consumer going to be like in 20 years' time? Will brands like Coca-Cola exist?
I was going to say that. The company Coca-Cola will definitely exist. The product will probably take a bit of a back seat, and the new brands of tomorrow will come flying through. I think you're already seeing it. We do a lot of work. I'm actually looking at it right there. Jimmy's Iced Coffee. They're an organisation that I've worked really closely. I know Jim, the founder, very well. He's an awesome guy, actually. He's never got overly caught up in what sustainability means. And I invited him to an event once, and he was like, "Oh, I can't come. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't got anything to say." I was like, you've just got your heart in the right place. You've built a product. He went into the Tetra Paks originally, then he didn't like the fact they had plastic lids, and he recreated the sort of aluminium bottle, spent millions on that, got that right. And then Britvic now Britvic Carlsberg came in and bought them as part of their Beyond the Bottle campaign.
Like
And
PepsiCo have just bought Poppy for 2.1 billion.
yeah, so you're seeing these market signals that the brands, and I know I was involved in that deal. They met at Blue Earth, and the reason they bought Jimmy's, one of the shining examples of why they bought Jimmy's, was because of their sustainability credentials, because they were B Corp, because they've got values-driven company. And then you look at the press release when Carlsberg bought Britvic. First paragraph headline is all about the brands that they're working with, like Aqua Libra, Plenish, Jimmy's, that are forward-thinking. They're the ones that they're putting at the top of the press release. It is so those big companies are going to still exist. They're just reinvesting and diversifying.
Thank you.
Yes,
I've got to
Coca-Cola.
ask Pippa, because she worked for Coca-Cola. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yes, Coca-Cola will still exist.
The brand.
The brand and the
We'll
company.
be drinking that shit.
And, you know, I would never underestimate both the power of that brand and the company. And actually, the distribution that they have, that is going to take more than 20 years to unravel.
I totally agree as a company, but in the same way PepsiCo have just spent a fortune on Poppy, which is a healthier alternative.
They're diversifying. They're bringing in healthier options, but I do think brand Coca-Cola will still
I've just
be
been
there.
given the wrap-up here. So my quick-fire question, when my glass is spilling. Quick-fire question. One brand that's getting purpose right. Pippa. We can't say nude.
Small.
What do they do?
They do direct-to-consumer washing tablets, which is both eco. It fits all of your criteria. It's a brilliant product. It is eco, and it's also price comparative with the big guys.
We'll chat about that later. Guy?
A company that came through our process last year is Urban Chain. They're in the energy space. They're totally disrupting kind of where energy comes from, how we consume it. It was a kind of piece of technology that everyone said that was impossible. An amazing founder called Sumaya Tahari spun out of, she's a PhD from Manchester University, and then she shut them all up by going from a sort of 1 million turnover last year to 85 million turnover this year, and she is decentralizing the energy system and kind of making mini power grids out of renewable energy that any of us can kind of plug into and buy.
Is that the one where you can sell your energy within your local neighborhood as opposed
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So kind of taking the pressure off the grid. The energy system is so broken. I think it's fundamental to driving a huge amount of change, because if you get free and abundant energy for everyone, all systems can change.
Bob?
Coca-Cola. No, I'm joking. Houdini.
Who are they?
I was out snowboarding with the creative director of Artrix before Christmas. He was in top-to-toe Houdini.
Stop name dropping.
They are Stockholm company. They've got circular design nailed. They're going to become the Intel inside that's going to change the whole of fashion. Houdini.
One thing that capitalism got right. Bob?
Box Fresh.
What is it, my ex-brand that he used to work on? One thing that capitalism got right.
Well,
Or you could go,
I
got
don't
wrong.
even know if I'm answering this question, but business is so fundamental to society. Businesses were born out of serving society. So I do think there's such an epic role that businesses can play, and no one should shy away from trying to make money out of good businesses.
I would say capitalism got cooperation across borders to make people talk to each other and to be able to find solutions to bigger problems.
The opening up of China with capitalism has brought over 650 million people out of poverty. So if you're a humanitarian before you are a Western, then that should be something to celebrate.
Bob, we're finished with you. One big idea that gives you hope for the future.
That consumers are going to be more defined by what they do and know, and less defined by what they own.
It's quite hard to follow.
Do you want me to go?
Go for it.
I would say the thing that gives me the most hope for the future is I believe, actually, against everything that I'm doing right now, I think technology will find the solution to the climate problem. I don't think it's going to be us.
Yeah, well, just to kind of add to that, so I had a moment to think. I do think you see things change, and in the past it's kind of taken somewhere between 20 and 50 years to see genuine system change. I think the role of tech, AI, robotics, we're going to see rapid change over to sort of, less than a decade. Things are going to change in front of us, and there's so much so many broken systems that need disruption. I think we're in for quite an exciting ride over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, I just want to thank our wonderful panelists for joining us today. You truly are inspiring in terms of what you're doing, and long may it live. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And on a final note, what's really, really important as marketeers is let's stand up for those people less fortunate. Let's stop the genocide in Gaza, and let's have a free Palestine. And Keir Starmer, grow some bollocks. Thank you.
Thank you.